안녕하세요. This is YouTube version of Lesson 5. You can find the full version of videos on our website. Anyway, Lesson 5 is going to be mainly about question forms in Korean. It's been only 3 lessons. From Lesson 3, we've been learning how to make an actual Korean sentences. Even if you study only Lesson 3 for 5, you will find yourself start speaking Korean. It's gonna be amazing. Don't worry, we will keep making new lessons. Okay, let's start. Have you seen something like this before? Anyway, let's take a look at our curriculum and see where we are now. The entire course will be divided into 3 levels. And at level 1, we are going to learn mostly about how to make basic sentences, basic declarative sentences, and basic interrogative sentences. At level 2, we are going to learn other forms of sentences such as suggestion, command, and etc. with the longer and more complicated sentences using new verbs, new adjectives, and new words. At level 3, we are going to learn more dialogues so that you can have a free talk with any native Koreans in Korean fluently. You are now in Lesson 5 at level 1. What more are you going to learn at level 1 then? Question forms, interrogative sentences that we are learning in this lesson. And we will learn how to conjugate the adjectives to be used as a modifier. And we will learn some useful phrases such as I want to do something, or I think it would be something, or auxiliary verbs such as should, must, can, and etc. And how to make phrases and clauses. If we have enough time, we will learn subjunctive sentences using if. And then we will learn how to make less formal form or informal form that you can use to your close friends. It'll be fun. We're gonna learn mainly about question forms in Lesson 5. There are 2 types of questions on this planet. Even though there are other types, they'll be subcategorized under these 2 major types. One is yes-no question, a question whose expected answer is either yes or no. The other one is 6W1H questions, or WH questions, whatever you call it. It's the question starts with a what, when, where, why, who, whose, whom, which, or how. Then, how do we say yes or no in Korean? Let's see honorifics first. Yes, 네, 네, or 예, 예, like yes. What's the difference between 2? No difference actually, but some might say yeah sounds slightly more polite than 네, just slightly. No, 아니요, 아니요. How about less formal form? We are not learning less formal form yet, but just to compare. There can be 2 possible answers for yes. 어, or 어 is actually a non-standard word. You cannot find this word in a dictionary as a translation of a word yes. But people use this a lot more in a normal life conversation between friends. Is a standard word for yes in Korean. It just sounds a bit cuter than I'll say. No is 아니, 아니. Just get rid of the honorific suffix yo from 아니요, okay? Let's take a look at the interrogatives or interrogative pronouns, interrogative adjectives, whatever you call it, such as what, how, and etc. Just check out the sound of them here. We'll learn more specifically about each one of them very soon anyway. What, 무엇, or 뭐. More is shorter, so we assume that it will be preferred in a real-life conversation. When, 언제, where, 어디, who, 누구. In English, when you say who, sometimes people offend you saying, what are you, an owl? But it will never happen in Korea. 누구? Why? Where? Don't you think they sound a little bit similar? Why, where, where. In Chinese, it's 为什么. What do you think? They sound all similar to me. Sometimes it's amazing how these 2 different languages possibly can have this kind of similarity. Maybe it's a coincidence. I'm not a linguist, so I never know. Which, 어느, how, 어떻게, 어떻게. It sounds 어떻게 with the K sound. Let's talk about this later again. Next. Let's learn about yes-no question first. You'll be surprised when you realize how simple it is. There are many words on this page, but in a nutshell, in Korean, when you make yes-no question, you just add a question mark at the end of the normal declarative sentence and make a rising sound with the very last letter of the sentence. That's it. You can do this because we are using the honorific suffix yo. It will be different with the honorific suffix 니다 because you should use 니가 for a question form. Not sure if we would have a chance to talk about this later again. Maybe yes. Do you want me to say it one more time? Just add a question mark at the end of the normal sentence and make a rising tone with the very last letter of the sentence. Let's see the example then. You like coffee. This is a normal declarative English sentence. Let's rearrange the sentence according to the Korean structure and rule. You, coffee, like. Subject plus object plus verb. It's too easy, right? You, 당신은, coffee, 커피를, 커피를. Or you can use English pronunciation coffee too. 커피를, like. 좋아해요. Yes, we know this sentence sounds a little bit weird and we know we don't use pronoun you in a Korean honorific sentence, but just leave it there for a while. Then how do you convert this sentence to a question form in English? Well, originally you bring the verb to the head of the sentence to make it a question form in English, but instead nowadays you use auxiliary verb do to make it interrogative. So we say, do you like coffee? You don't need such a thing, auxiliary verb in Korean to make an interrogative sentence. As we say, you just need to add a question mark at the end of the declarative sentence. Then let's do that to the sentence we are using here now. You like coffee. 당신은 커피를 좋아해요. And bang, question mark. Just one thing. Let's get rid of 당신은, the pronoun you, because we keep saying what? We don't use the pronoun you in an honorific sentence in Korean. Remember, make a rising sound with the last letter of the sentence. In this case, you make a rising tone with the letter 요. 커피를 좋아해요? 좋아해요? Okay? Sometimes it sounds more natural without a particle. 커피 좋아해요? Do you like coffee? 커피 좋아해요? When you make an interrogative sentence in Korean, quite often it sounds better without a subject particle or an object particle. We don't know the reason why, it's just the way how Koreans say. The point is, the verb does not change. Just add a question mark, that's it. From now on, you can make any yes-no question if you can make a proper declarative sentence. Let's see a couple of more examples. You cry now. 당신은 지금 울어요. Or you are crying now. 당신은 지금 울고 있어요. Present simple or present continuous. Whichever you use, they can both mean present continuous if you use a proper adverb with it. Just get rid of the pronoun you, 당신은, and add a question mark at the end of the sentence and read it properly. Do you cry now? 지금 울어요? Are you crying now? 지금 울고 있어요? You understand I'm exaggerating the rising tone for your better understanding, right? Okay, good. Let's see a longer and more complicated sentence. It looks complicated, but it's not. You went to Jiyoung's house with Dongbae and Soyoung last night. You've seen this sentence in usual lesson 4. It looks complicated, but it's actually nothing if you can make a declarative sentence correct. Let's make a correct declarative sentence first then. Let's rearrange the words first. You, last night, with Dongbae and Soyoung, to Jiyoung's house, went. Let's say the speaker is a female. And 지용 is a friend who's a bit older than her. And 동배 and 소영 are speakers' friends who are equal to or younger than her. So the speaker can use their name for 동배 and 소영, but have to use 오빠 for 지용. Okay? You, 당신은. We know it's useless to translate this you. Last night, 어젯밤. Yesterday night. We used middle 시옷 here. If you don't understand what middle 시옷 means, you need to go back to lesson 4. 어젯밤. With 동배 and 소영. We can see the preposition with and the conjunction and here. We know we can use 하고, 과, 와, or 랑, 이랑 interchangeably here. Let's use 랑 for both with and this time. It sounds cute. 동배랑, 소영이랑. The first 랑 is for the preposition with and the next 이랑 is for the conjunction and. To 지용's house. 지용이 오빠의 집에 went. 갔어요. Let's get rid of the pronoun you and add a question mark at the end and make a high tone sound with the last letter 요. 어젯밤 동배랑 소영이랑 지용이 오빠의 집에 갔어요? 어젯밤 동배랑 소영이랑 지용이 오빠의 집에 갔어요? That's it. It's nothing. Now you can make as many YesNo questions as you learned declarative sentences. No matter how long or complicated the original declarative sentence is, it wouldn't matter. Just get rid of the subject if it's the pronoun you and add a question mark at the end and make rising tone yo sound, okay? Let's learn about Korean honorifics one more time. Do you remember when we briefly talked about this in lesson 2? We said Korean grammar uses an extensive system of honorifics to reflect the speaker's relationship to the subject of the sentence and speech levels to reflect the speaker's relationship to the audience or the listener. And we already told you that this is something so hard for foreigners, especially so-called Westerners, to understand because you don't have anything like this in your country. Asians might understand this. It's all about age and relationship. People use different names for each if you see other sources out there, but we said there are less formal form or informal form and honorifics in Korean language. Then who you use the informal form to? You use informal form to someone who is very, very close to you or to your friends whose age is equal to or younger than yours. When your friend is older than you, but if he or she is very, very close to you, you can still use the informal form to them. You can use informal form to a child too. Can you feel now to whom you should use the informal form? You don't use informal form to just an acquaintance. Then when do you use honorifics? You use honorifics to any stranger or to someone whose age is older than yours, even just 1 year older, and to anyone who is not that close to you in your social life, and to someone who you think he or she deserves honorifics. Honorifics can be divided into formal honorifics and casual honorifics. You use the ending 니다 or 니까 in verbs in formal honorifics, and it's used in a formal document or in a military normally. You can still use formal honorifics in a conversation, especially when the environment or atmosphere is relatively formal, like in a presentation or something. Casual honorifics is used in an everyday conversation, and it ends in 요. You've seen a lot of this already, right? We're gonna learn something new this time. In Korean, there are words that show higher respect than just normal honorifics. It's sometimes about different conjugation in verbs or adjectives, or sometimes it's totally different words. Let's call it higher respect form from now on, okay? Then when do you use the higher respect form? When you talk to or talk about someone who is much older than you or who has socially much higher position. Well, it's sad, but anyway, someone who takes the socially higher position is normally older than you, so you should be fine with it. By the way, there's one big difference when you choose to use just normal honorifics and higher respect form. We choose whether to use informal form or honorifics according to the listener's age and or seniority in relation to speakers. But when we use higher respect form, we consider the subject's age, not listeners, and or seniority in relation to speakers. Yeah, of course, the listener and the subject in a sentence can be the same when you are talking to the second person, about the second person. For example, when you talk about your father to your friend, you speak in informal form, but you should use the higher respect form for your father. Do you understand a little bit? Okay, let's see the example of the higher respect form. 밥 means a meal or cooked rice. It's a noun. The higher respect form is 식사. So when you ask someone who is much older than you whether he or she had dinner, you should use 식사 rather than 밥. 사람 means a human. If you add 분 to a human or a man or a woman, you can show some more respect to strangers. How about verb? 먹다 means to eat. The higher respect form is 드시다. It's totally different word. 좋아하다 means to like. It's a verb. If you add she sound to the stem, you can make it a higher respect form. 좋아하시다. Too difficult? Don't worry, just remember there's something like this and learn the rest by doing. When you talk about yourself, you don't use the higher respect form. It's so obvious, isn't it? Why do you have to use the higher respect form when you talk about yourself unless you are a crazy self-loving person? But when you ask a question to someone else, you might have more chance to use the higher respect forms because you are talking about someone else, either second person or third person. So let's learn a couple of higher respect nouns and predicates that most commonly used. Let's see the basic form of the verb first. Do you remember how to say the verb eat in Korean? The basic form of the verb eat is 먹다. 먹다. There is the higher respect form of the verb eat in Korean. 드시다. 드시다. And 드시 is the stem. It looks like a totally different word, but remember this she sound was added. It looks like a very important sound to the higher respect form of the verbs or sometimes adjectives. Let's take a look at the next verb, do. What's the basic form of the verb do? 하다. 하다, right? How about the higher respect form of the verb do? 하시다. 하시다. This she sound was added again to make this verb higher respect form, right? It looks like 하시 is the stem. Don't worry, just take a look at it and move on. Maybe this she sound will be the part of the rule making higher respect forms. Let's see the vocab on the right. 저녁 is a noun which means night or evening. 밥 is a meal, as you know, so 저녁밥 means dinner. You can see where it came from, right? You can just use 저녁 to mean dinner if you want. Everybody will understand. 식사 is the higher respect form of 밥, okay? Okay, let's see the sentence then. You ate dinner. Let's make a declarative sentence first. You, dinner, ate. You, 당신은, dinner. 저녁밥을 or 저녁을, would be fine too. ate. 먹어요. No, it's in the past tense. You should add 없어요 sound. So it's 먹었어요. Let's get rid of the subject 당신은. We don't need this. And add a question mark at the end. 저녁밥을 먹었어요? It seems fine, but it would sound more natural without the object particle 을. 저녁밥 먹었어요? It's a perfect sentence, but you don't talk like this to someone who's much older than you in Korea. It will make you look a little bit impolite. It's still okay, but it's much better to use the higher respect form so that it will make you look like such a polite foreigner who understands Korean culture very well. Then, how to make a higher respect form? Let's change the verb first. The higher respect form of the verb eat is 드시다, right? The stem is 드시. To make it past tense, you should add 없어요 sound. So it's 드시었어요. But when the last letter of the stem doesn't have the final, the sound of the last letter tends to combine with the sound of 아요, 어요, 왔어요, 없어요, unless the last letter of the stem ends in the vowel 아 or 어. You learned about this in use of lesson 3 and lesson 4 part 4, right? So we need to combine 시 and 엇 sound together. 시엇, 시엇, 셔. It sounds shut. So 드셨어요 is correct sound. So the higher respect form of the question, did you eat dinner, is 저녁밥 드셨어요? We can use the higher respect form of the noun too sometimes. In other words, some nouns have its higher respect form. As we saw in the vocab box on the right, the higher respect form of the noun 밥 is 식사, which means a meal. Strangely, we use the verb do, 하다, when we use the higher respect noun 식사 instead of the verb eat, 먹다, or 드시다. Okay? Keep that in mind. Then how do we say, did you eat dinner, using the higher respect noun 식사? The structure is the same. Dinner, let's use 저녁 식사, which is the higher respect form of the 저녁 밥. And as we said, we should use the verb do instead of the verb eat this time. Well, even though you use the verb eat with the higher respect noun 식사, 100% of native Koreans understand what you're saying, but it's natural to use do verb with the noun 식사, okay? Then how do we use the verb do here? You should change it to the higher respect form too. Then how do we make it a higher respect form? Add 시 sound to the end of the stem 하. So the basic form of it is 하시다. 하시다 is the higher respect form of the verb do, okay? The stem of this verb is 하시. Therefore, you should add 없어요 sound to make it past tense. As we learned, the last letter of the stem 시 doesn't have any final consonant. Therefore, you should combine with 없어요 sound. So, as we explained, this 시엇 part becomes 셔 sound. 하셨어요. 하셨어요. 저녁 식사 하셨어요? Don't forget making rising tone with the last letter yo, okay? Let's learn the principle then. How to turn a predicate such as a verb or an adjective into a higher respect form. We'll learn how to make it now, and we'll learn when to use it and how to use it later. There is a usage rule for higher respect forms, but let's learn about it later. As we've seen in this lesson, you can make a higher respect form of a verb or an adjective by adding 시 sound to the stem. It's actually very easy, isn't it? Let's turn a verb go into a higher respect form. The basic form of the verb go is 가다. If we add 시 sound to the stem 가, it becomes the higher respect form of the verb 가다, which is 가시다. 가시다. When we add the honorific suffix yo to the stem, we add yo or yo sound, right? Let's add yo sound to the stem 가시, 가시어요, 가시어요. But when there is no final consonant in the last block of the stem, the last letter combines its sound with yo or yo, right? So we need to make 시어 sound one sound. 시어, 시어, 셔. It's 셔. Okay? 가셔요 is correct rather than 가시어요. 가셔요, 가세요 is correct too. Again, 가세요 is correct too. 가셔요, 가세요, both are correct. We don't know for sure where 가세요 came from, but Korean people use 가세요 more frequently in a real life conversation. How about the past tense with the suffix 요? We add 었어요 or 앗어요 sound to make it past, right? The same thing applies here. So add 었어요 sound to the stem 가시, 가시었어요. But again, you should combine the sound of 시 and 엇. So it became 셔, 셔 sound. 가셨어요. If it's a question, 가셨어요, you make a rising tone, right? Strangely, in the past tense, we don't use 세 sound. Therefore, 가셨어요 is totally wrong. Keep that in mind. How about the present continuous form with the honorific suffix 요? We add 고 있어요 sound to make it present continuous, right? Let's add 고 있어요 sound to the stem 가시, 가시고 있어요, 가시고 있어요. It's a present continuous higher respect form of the verb go. Okay? Let's see one more example. It's a verb like. The basic form is 좋아하다. In order to make a higher respect form, we need to add 시 sound to the stem 좋아하. So it's 좋아하시다, 좋아하시다. Let's add 요 sound to it. 좋아하시어요. We need to combine 시 and sound. As you know, it becomes 셔, 셔 sound. 좋아하셔요. 셔 sound is interchangeable with the 세 sound. So 좋아하세요 is correct too. If it's a question, 좋아하세요, make a rising tone. The past form is 좋아하셨어요. If it's a question, 좋아하셨어요, make a rising sound. Okay, this is the end of lesson 5 part 1. See you in part 2 then. 안녕히 계세요. lesson 5 part 2에서 만나요. Let's learn how to make a simple question using the interrogative pronoun what. Remember that this what is used as an interrogative pronoun here. We'll learn other usages of what later again. Anyway, don't worry too much about what it's called now. It's just what. What was the translation for the interrogative pronoun what? 무엇 or 뭐. 무엇 or 뭐. 뭐 is the shortened form, so needless to say, people use 뭐 more than 무엇. 무엇 sounds a bit formal. 뭐, 무, 뭐. It's 우 plus sound. 우어, 뭐, 뭐. Okay? You understand the sound? Okay. What is the simplest question you can make using what then? How about what is this? And what do you like? The question, what is this, is related to the English pattern number 3 we learned in lesson 3. Subject plus verb plus complement. When we want to say something or someone is something, we use the predicate 예요 or 이에요, right? We use the same predicate in a question form too. Then how do we say this is a car? This is 이것 in Korean. Car is 차 in Korean. This, 이것, 이. The subject particle 이 is added. Why 이? Why not 은? Yes, you can use 은 too. It's just about a nuance. When you use the particle 이 or 가, you can give the sentence the nuance of emphasizing the subject of the sentence, like, what is this thing? I want to know this. And when you use the particle 은 or 는, you can give the sentence a nuance of comparing or contrasting. Normally, you use 은 or 는 from the second sentence when you make several questions. But sometimes it's not strange at all to use 은 or 는 from the very first question. Confusing, isn't it? It's not a strict rule. It's all about nuance. Let's learn it by doing. A car, 차, is, 예요. 차 doesn't have a final consonant, so we use 예요 rather than 이에요. 예요 and 이에요 sound almost the same when you speed them out faster, so don't worry too much about the pronunciation of 예요 and 이에요. We told you this a lot. 이것 이 차예요. It actually sounds 이것이 차예요. Remember this sentence. Then let's swap a car with the interrogative pronoun what, because this is the part we want to know, the word in the position of the complement. So you'd be like, this is what? You ask a question like this even in English sometimes, right? So let's put what, 무엇, in the position of a car in a Korean sentence. 이것이 무엇이에요. We used 이에요 because 엇 has the final consonant. And this is a question. You're supposed to make a rising tone. So 이것이 무엇이에요? More naturally, 이것이 무엇이에요? You understand why it sounds like this, don't you? It's because of all the 이응, the empty consonant. Let's use the shortened form of what then. 이것이 뭐예요? 이것이 뭐예요? There is a shortened form of 이것이 too. 이게, which already contains the particle. The shortened form of 이것은 is 이건. The shortened form of 이것이 is 이게. Okay? So you can say 이게 뭐예요? Or you can use 이건 뭐예요? too when you want to use the particle 은 or 는. 이게 뭐예요? What is this? According to the Korean structuring rule, this what is. 이게 뭐예요? Perfect. Let's see the next question. What do you like? This sentence is related to the English pattern number 2. Subject plus verb plus object that we learned in lesson 3. I like coffee. Let's make a declarative sentence first. I, coffee, like. I, 저는, coffee, 커피를. You use the particle 을 or 를 for the object of the sentence, right? Like, 좋아해요. 저는 커피를 좋아해요. 저는 커피를 좋아해요. You can use the English pronunciation coffee too. In order to make a question sentence using what, you just need to swap the object coffee with the interrogative pronoun what, 무엇, or 뭐. It's easy, right? So if you want to ask a question to second person, the sentence structure is going to be you, what, like. You, 당신은. We don't normally use 당신 in an honorific sentence, as you know. And we don't need to use 이 or 가 for the subject because the subject I or you is not something we want to know here. Therefore, we don't have to emphasize it. What, 무엇을. We add a particle 을 because this what is in the position of the object. Like, 좋아해요. We make a rising tone because this is a question. 당신은 무엇을 좋아해요? Or 당신은 뭐를 좋아해요? 뭐 is used more commonly because it's short and simple. Let's get rid of 당신은 because we're supposed to find another way to get around using you anyway. 뭐를 좋아해요? It's fine. But it will sound a bit more natural without the particle 을 or 를 sometimes, especially in a question sentence. 뭐 좋아해요? What do you like? 뭐 좋아해요? If you want to sound more polite, you can use the higher respect form of the verb like, adding she sound as we learned in the previous lesson. 뭐 좋아하세요? Or 뭐 좋아하셔요? Okay, that's good. Then let's make some simple questions using what. What is your name? Or your name is what? It's a simple question we can use anytime. Well, Koreans actually use higher respect noun and predicate to ask someone else's name for the first time. But let's learn it on the next page because it's very difficult to learn. Anyway, you can use the sentences on this page too to someone who you meet for the first time, especially when you think the audience or the listener seems to be about your age or younger. What's the sentence structure? We put the subject, your name, first and put the predicate is at the end, and the interrogative pronoun what right before the predicate is. Your name, what is? Your name, let's not translate the possessive your here. Name is 이름, 이름이. Let's put the subject particle 이 because it's a question. What? 뭐 is 예요 이름이 뭐예요? With a rising tone. It's too easy, isn't it? How about what is your phone number? Phone number is 전화번호. We've seen this word several times, right? Let's reposition the words. It's simple. Your phone number, what is? Your phone number. We don't need a your here because you and I both know I'm asking about your phone number. Phone number. Phone number is 전화번호. 전화번호는. We used 는 this time. Why? Because we already asked the listener's name. So it's the second question. Let's see the grammar section on the bottom. The first question used the particle 이. If you want to ask another question consecutively right after the first question, it is okay to use 은 or 는 because it provides a nuance of comparing to the first question. Let's say this is the conversation between A and B. A asks, "What is your name?" B answers, "Emma." And A asks again, "Okay then, what is your phone number?" The particle 은 or 는 gives a nuance of "okay then" here in this conversation. Now, do you understand what we are trying to explain? What? 뭐 is and a question mark. 예요? 예요? 전화번호는 뭐예요? What is your phone number? Or 전화번호가 뭐예요? is okay too. Let's make a question with what in the future tense. What are you going to do tonight? You are going to do what tonight? Isn't that amazing? Now you can make this kind of a useful question in Korean. It's mainly because we are not just teaching the sound, we are teaching how to make a sentence. Let's see the vocab box first. 오늘 밤 is tonight. 오늘 is today. 밤 means night. 오늘 밤, today night. So it's tonight. 오늘 밤 is not a one word, by the way, as tonight is in English. It's 오늘 plus 밤. Therefore, you have to put a space between the two words. Never mind, just move on. Let's rearrange the words according to the Korean sentence structure. Subject you comes first, which is useless in an honorific sentence, and time-related word tonight comes right after it. The verb and the tense parts come at the end of the sentence, and what comes right before the verb and the tense part, where an object comes in a declarative sentence. So, you, tonight, what are going to do? You, we don't need this. Tonight, 오늘 밤, what, 무엇을, or 뭐를. You can add the object particle 을 or 를. Are going to do. How you translate be going to in English to Korean? Stem plus the final 르 or the particle 을 plus 예정이에요. The stem here is 하. Therefore, we add a final 르 to the stem and 예정이에요. 할 예정이에요. And a question mark. 오늘 밤 무엇을 할 예정이에요? Or 오늘 밤 뭐를 할 예정이에요? As we told you, normally tends to sound more natural without the object particle 을 or 를, especially in a question sentence. So, 뭐 할 예정이에요? 오늘 밤 뭐 할 예정이에요? What are you going to do tonight? Okay, perfect. Then how you make this sentence a higher respect form? Just use the higher respect form of the verb do. 하시다, 하시다. Just simply add the 시 sound to 하다. The stem of 하시다 is 하시. Add the final 르 sound and 예정이에요 to it. It will make a higher respect form of the verb in the future tense. 하실 예정이에요. 하실 예정이에요. 오늘 밤 뭐 하실 예정이에요? Very good. You can make 이에요 part a higher respect form too, but let's learn about it later because it's too much for you right now. 오늘 밤 뭐 하실 예정이에요? Sounds polite enough, don't worry. How about what will you do tonight? We just need to add a final 르 sound or the particle 을 plus 거예요. 오늘 밤 뭐 할 거예요? The higher respect form is 오늘 밤 뭐 하실 거예요? Okay, very good. Okay, let's learn how to make a question using when then. See how fast you're learning. It's amazing. What was the Korean translation for when? 언제. 언제. This when is an adverb in English like now, yesterday, or tomorrow. Do you remember where we put the adverb like now, yesterday, or tomorrow in a Korean sentence? Yes, right after the subject. Well, actually adverbs like now, yesterday, or tomorrow are nouns in Korean, not adverbs. You heard of something like this from us before, right? Like the question forms using what, when we make a question using when, we use a be verb or a verb or a modal do verb. Let's make a question using be verb first then. A question using be verb is still related to the English pattern number 3 that we learned in lesson 3 because we're still gonna use the predicate 예요 or 이에요. Let's see the English sentence first. When is your birthday? How would you answer to this question? My birthday is on August 11th. We haven't learned the numbers and the translation of month and day. Of course, you can find them in the vocab box on the right, but you can still translate this sentence without knowing them. Birthday is 생일, 생일. 제 생일은 or 제 생일이, whatever the particle is. Let's use 생일은. 제 생일은 August 11th 예요. Let's focus more on the structure than the translation here. The date on August 11th is the information we want to know using when, right? Then let's swap it with when and change my birthday to your birthday because I want to know your birthday. Your birthday is when. If we reposition the words according to the Korean structure and rule, it will be your birthday when is, right? Your, 당신의. 의 is the particle that makes the noun or pronoun possessive. But you know what? Let's not talk about this anymore. From now on, we will never use the pronoun 당신 forever. We're not even gonna translate it for your convenience. You use this word 당신 when you're fighting someone in Korea normally. Of course, many people call their husband and wife 당신 in Korea too. Interesting, isn't it? I'm not gonna make further comment on this. Anyway, you know all this already. Okay, birthday. 생일이. Let's use the particle 이 because this is a question sentence. We'll learn more about this on the next page. Again, 생일이. When. 언제. Is. 예요. This is a question, therefore you should make a rising tone with the last word 요. 생일이 언제예요? You can make a higher respect sentence when you want to ask this question to someone who is much older than you. The higher respect form of the noun birthday is 생신. 생신. Do you remember how to make the higher respect form of the predicate 이다? 이에요. 예요. We learned it in lesson 5 part 1. 이시다 is the basic form and 이셔요 or 이세요 is the higher respect form of the predicate 이다 with the honorific suffix 요, right? When there is a final consonant in the formal block, you use 이셔요 or 이세요, and when there is no final consonant in the formal block, you use 세요 like we use 예요 instead of 이예요, okay? Keep that in mind. Okay, let's see how to make a question with a do verb using when. Let's see the simplest question first. When do you go? How would you answer to this question? The answer to this question will be the key to make a question form in Korean. Because in Korean, we just need to put a question mark to a declarative sentence and make a rising tone. I go now. Now is the part we want to know using when, right? So let's swap now with when and replace I with you because I want to ask you a question. You go when. As we put time-related word right after the subject in a Korean sentence, let's put when right after the subject. You, when, go. We don't need the pronoun you here. When, 언제, go, 가요 with a rising sound. How about the higher respect form? We need to add 시 sound to the verb 가요. So it will conjugate into 가셔요 or 가세요. 언제 가셔요 or 언제 가세요? Some might ask why we don't add the particle 에 to when in the first place, as we did for some time-related adverbs or nouns. Well, there can be two possible answers to that question. First of all, 언제 already has 에 sound with 제, so it would be sound redundancy if we pronounce 에 sound one more time according to the sound economic principle that we made up. Second of all, when we use the interrogatives in Korean, strangely it sounds more natural without the particle. That's it. Okay, that's great. Now you can make a question using when. This is a very important page. We are going to learn how to get around using you or your in a sentence, and how particles change the nuance of the sentence, and how to turn the sentence into a higher respect form. Let's see the English sentence first. Teacher Kim, when is your birthday? Or Teacher Kim, your birthday is when? Maybe this second sentence is not helping. Let's get rid of the second sentence from the next page. We call Teacher Kim first to get an attention before we ask a question to her or him. Like, hey, Teacher Kim. So, Teacher Kim is not actually a subject of the sentence. Your birthday or a birthday is the subject of the sentence. Remember that. So the sentence structure in Korean is going to be Teacher Kim, your birthday, when, is. Let's see the first Korean sentence. Teacher Kim. Kim is the last name of a person and teacher is 선생님 in Korean. We put the last name first in Korean and then put the profession. So Kim 선생님. It's not Kim actually, as most of the foreigners pronounce. But it's Kim, not Kim. It's Kim. Your birthday. We don't need the possessive your. Birthday is 생일 in Korean. Let's use the subject particle 이 here. 생일이, 생일이. When, 언제, is. The predicate 예요, 예요. 김 선생님 생일이 언제예요? This is a correct and perfect sentence, but you can use the particle 은 for the subject birthday, and it will change the nuance of the sentence slightly. Let's take a look at it together. Teacher Kim. Let's call Teacher Kim to get his or her attention first. 김 선생님, your birthday. 생일은. 생일은. When. 언제. is. 예요. 김 선생님, 생일은 언제예요? It sounds like you ask other questions to Teacher Kim before you ask him or her this question. So normally you don't have to call Teacher Kim one more time since Teacher Kim is now listening to you. So 생일은 언제예요? Would be just fine. Of course, you can call Teacher Kim one more time to get an attention. So it's like, okay, Teacher Kim, when is your birthday then? 김 선생님, 생일은 언제예요? You understand the nuance? Okay, next sentence. 김 선생님은. We use the particle 은 for Teacher Kim even though it's not the subject of the sentence. The rest of the sentence is the same. 생일이 언제예요? 김 선생님은 생일이 언제예요? As we mentioned in lesson 5 part 1, 은 and 는 are not actually subject particles, but they are auxiliary particles that can give a word a few different roles in a sentence. Of course, it can make a word the subject of the sentence too. That's why we use them as subject particles so far. 김 선생님 is not the subject of the sentence grammatically, but it's the subject of this conversation because the speaker is asking about Teacher Kim. Teacher Kim is the subject who owns the birthday. We are talking about Teacher Kim's birthday, right? Do you understand what it means? So you can say that there can be two subjects in this Korean sentence. The actual subject of the sentence, birthday, and the subject of the conversation, Teacher Kim. I think we talked something about this in lesson 4 part 3. Anyway, 김 선생님은 생일이 언제예요? It sounds almost the same as 김 선생님 생일이 언제예요? Just when there are other people in the same room, this particle 은 can be used to inform Teacher Kim that I am now talking about you. Okay, let's take a look at the next sentence. 김 선생님의 생일은 언제예요? We can see this 의 is used here. We use 의 to make a noun or a pronoun a possessive normally. So the English translation is going to be like, when is Teacher Kim's birthday? And the particle 의 takes the role of apostrophe s in English, as you know. Of course, you can use the other subject particle 이. 김 선생님의 생일이 언제예요? We added this sentence to show you that we don't use the possessive your in an honorific sentence. But the thing is, Koreans don't really use this particle 의 in a real-life conversation either. Of course, it's grammatically correct, so you can still use it, but it sounds better without the particle 의 in a real-life conversation. Just keep that in mind. So, 김 선생님 생일이 언제예요? Or 김 선생님 생일은 언제예요? It's just fine. It looks the same as the second sentence on this page, but the difference is, in a second sentence, you call Teacher Kim. Hey, Teacher Kim. 김 선생님, when is your birthday? But in this sentence, 김 선생님 생일은 언제예요? It's the translation of when is Teacher Kim's birthday. Do you get it? Okay, very good. Just remember that in Korean, you should find another way to get around using you or your. Otherwise, just get rid of it from the sentence. Okay, let's see the next sentence. It's a higher respect form. We call Teacher Kim first. 김 선생님. It sounds alright because 선생님 is already a higher respect form with the 님 sound. 선생 is the informal form of the noun teacher. This 님 sound makes some nouns a higher respect form. 생신이. 생신 is the higher respect form of birthday. 생일. 생신. 생신. Okay? And we use the subject particle 이 here. When. 언제. is. 세요. Do you remember we learned about 이셔요 and 이세요 in lesson 5 part 1? 이셔요 and 이세요 is the higher respect form of the predicate 이에요, right? But as you use 예요 when there is no final consonant in the formal block, you should use 세요 or 셔요 without E sound. So, 세요 is also higher respect form of the predicate 이다. The basic form of 이다 becomes 이에요 or 예요 when it combines with the honorific suffix 요, and it becomes higher respect form 이셔요, 셔요, or 이세요, 세요. Okay? The full sentence is going to be 김 선생님 생신이 언제세요? 김 선생님 생신이 언제세요? 김 선생님 생신이 언제셔요? 언제셔요? 언제세요? Both are fine. Okay, let's take a look at the next sentence. This one looks a bit complicated. Let's read it together first. 김 선생님께서는. What is 께서는? It's actually 께서 plus 는. 는 is of course an auxiliary particle that we've been using as a subject particle. 께서 is the higher respect form of the subject particle 이 and 가. Then why 께서 is added here since we never added 이 or 가 to teacher Kim. Listen carefully, this is a bit hard to understand. As I told you, teacher Kim is not actually a subject in an English sentence. Your birthday is. But teacher Kim can be the second subject in a Korean sentence because the speaker is talking to or talking about teacher Kim. That's why we could add the particle in some cases. Since teacher Kim is the second subject of the sentence or the subject of the conversation and is a human and socially deserves higher respect form, you can add 께서 regardless of the fact that it's the higher respect form of the subject particle 이 or 가. But when you put 께서 not in the position of 이 or 가, you should add 는. In other words, you cannot leave 께서 alone with the teacher Kim in this sentence, as we can't add the particle 이 to teacher Kim in this sentence. Again, it's not like you must use 께서 to teacher Kim in this sentence, but if you want to use it, you need to add a particle 는 because 께서 is the higher respect form of 이 or 가, and teacher Kim in this sentence cannot take the particle 이 because it's not the first subject in this sentence. Now you get it? This is a bit confusing, so let me list the gist one more time. First, 께서 is the higher respect form of the subject particle 이 or 가, not 은 or 는. Therefore, needless to say, you cannot replace 은 or 는 with 께서. Second, we added the auxiliary particle 는 to 께서 here because teacher Kim is not actually the subject in this sentence. Third, yes, you can get rid of 께서 from this sentence if it's too complicated, but if you want to make a good higher respect sentence, it will be no harm to use 께서, okay? You use 께서 only to a human who is a bit or much older than you or takes socially much higher position than you. When you use 께서 in substitution for 이 or 가, you shouldn't add 은 or 는, obviously, as we saw in lesson 5 part 1. The rest of the sentence is going to be the same. 생신이 언제세요? Or 셔요? 세요 is used more commonly in a real life conversation. 김 선생님께서는 생신이 언제세요? 김 선생님께서는 생신이 언제셔요? Very good. If it's too hard for you to remember all of the sentences here, just remember the first one. 김 선생님 생일이 언제예요? Or the first one of the higher respect form. 김 선생님 생신이 언제세요? Or the second higher respect form would be fine too. 김 선생님께서는 생신이 언제세요? Because it sounds so polite with a higher respect form of the particle, the noun, and the predicate. It's a perfect higher respect form of the sentence. Okay, wow, it's been a long page. You learned a lot of things though. Let's move on. This is the end of YouTube version of lesson 5. We will study the rest of the question forms and more in our full version of videos. Thank you very much. See you in lesson 6. 안녕히 계세요. lesson 6에